This is a recording of just adding shade and shadow and some texture to elevation drawings. So in your handout, you've received this elevation drawing. So this was generated in a 3D software program such as SketchUp or Chief Architect. It was then turned into a line drawing just so that we can quickly practice adding texture, shade, and shadow before we go to the next exercise and actually draw in furniture to scale in elevation. So here is just a copy of the finished product, and this is also posted under the lectures. And just quickly, there is a light source coming from the left, angling down to the right, and that's the light source that I follow throughout the presentation. So if you can see up there that there is a highlight at the lamp, and then the shadow side, and then the shade, and then the shadow. There are two nightstands. The nightstands you can make closed or open. I'm assuming that they're an open nightstand, so therefore they have a recess and they would be a dark cavity, as would underneath the shelf of the nightstand. That would also be in shadow, as well as we have what looks like a channeled or tufted upholstered bed. Underneath that would be dark as well. So just thinking about the light source coming from that and just adding some shade and shadow. So I'll try to work on bits of this so that you can get a feel of the style. You want to work from light to dark when you're doing illustration. So I'm even starting with a 10. Now, you would have a lot more time to work wet on wet, and so I'm just going to do this little lamp as an example. If you were working on marker paper. So this is just our standard Xerox paper that we're working on today, and so the ink really gets saturated quickly into the paper and therefore dries very quickly. So I'm going to have you just practice on the lamp. Normally I like you to put number 10 all over the drawing, then move to number 20 all over the drawing, 30, 50, and then like a 70 for your final. I'm just going to show you this little area right here of the lamp just because it will dry very quickly. So just like when we were working with shapes, you want to start light to dark and leaving a highlight. So I'm applying 10 to the lamps. That's wetting my paper. It's really getting... And then I'm going to go in with 2. This is just like what we did when we were working with the shapes. And then to blend, if you don't like a hard edge, you can then go back in with the 10 to soften the edge. So next you're going to move to 30. And you're going to come in. Get that nice darkness on our lamp. And then soften again with 10 or 20, so if you like that blended look. Again, the example that I have provided was from last semester, and last semester we were on campus and we did have the opportunity to work on marker paper. If you wanted to add, let's say, a plant or a little something underneath the shelf, maybe you want to add a stack of books, you can go ahead and place those in very quickly, and maybe down here is just going to be some type of little box or vase. You're going to go in and start putting in the shadows. So I'm going to go in just straight away with number 30 in the cavity. and under the nightstand. If you want to have some blending, then go in with a 20 or a 10 and soften that. I think my 10 is about out. It's going to be me and a 20 this time. And then I can go back in with 30 and really build up some of that. So if my light's coming from here, just as a reminder, when you're working with a straight edge, go ahead and press down and cover up the area that you want to protect. So there's going to be a shadow on that side of the nightstand. If this was a upholstered headboard and these were wings that came forward, there's going to be a bit of a shadow on that side of the wing and this side of the wing. This side of the nightstand. Even the casing on the window. I'm going to just take a little more time for the shadowing of the chair and ottoman. So if there's a chair and ottoman, those chair and ottoman are on an angle. So I'm going to go ahead with number 20 and then come in with the 30 and then blend again. Make sure when you're working with your markers that you hear the snap when you put your lids back on. If you don't hear that snap, just like you just heard now, that means that they're not tightly closed and that they'll dry out. So you can do as little or as much as that you want with this. So now I'm just going to go in and kind of fill in some of the creases of the tuft with a 20 and a 30, just showing some of the indication of the coverlet and some shadows that are happening here with both 20 and 30. And for your final project, when you do your hotel room, we did an earlier assignment where you actually did an entire chair vignettes with hatching. So that was, I think, week 1 or 2. So if you're finding that you like hatching and working with line a lot more than marker to add some of this, please feel free to just hatch in some of the shade and shadowing. You'll see some examples in the lecture of students who really worked with that fine line and with great results. I use marker, why? Right? Because it's quicker. I'm softening the edges of the bed so it doesn't seem so severe. Going in with the 30 and even 50 to start building that up. Again, where you want soft lines, apply the marker with contour. Just very loose and free. Where you want to have some sharp lines, go ahead and use a straight edge. The frame would cast a very small shadow. The interior of the frame would cast a very small shadow onto the glass. Right? If this is your window, these are your glass lights, those are your mullions. And then this is the casing around the window. So the casing would actually place a shadow onto the glass. The casing would place a shadow onto the wall. And the casing would, the mullions would actually have a small shadow on the glass. So I'm just gonna go with 30 just to get this done. So that you can see it. You can do this freehand or you can use a straight edge, so I'm showing you both. So we have the L and then we have the L on the glass. Because this is inexpensive paper, there's only going to be so much depth we can build up before the paper just gives out. So you'll want to do that. I'm just kind of flipping my pen, using the long side of it to add some marks there. Since I did that side, I'll finish this side really quickly. If you print your underdrawings light enough, I find that most of our clients don't even know that there's an underdrawing. I mean, would you know that this was an underdrawing? It starts to look very hand-drawn. So, you know, I print them a little heavier so that you can see them, but know that the lighter you print the underdrawing, the more that when you're done, you kind of deceive. So be consistent. So just even noticing that the shadow cast on this window is going in the same direction as this window, is going in the same direction as the piece of art. So you want to keep that all consistent. So you don't want to kind of change shadow directions because it starts to look very confusing. So even though in reality you'll have multiple light sources, for illustration it's nice just to keep one. It's a lot easier. When you're feeling brave after you've laid out, I've laid out 10 through 30% marker. If you want to go for that last little bit of depth, this would be the time just to add those final little punches. And then again, if you don't like the harsh marks, then you go back in with a 30 to blend. And then 20 from there. So you could always work backwards to soften. If you don't like harsh lines, you can remove those. I kind of like the looks of the watermarks, but if I had a little bit of 10% and you didn't like it, you can, of course, soften those out. Let me just see if I push a little more, if I can kind of get some of that watermark pushed out. So finish off with some of that 50. Get a couple of those nice depth in there, right? Those last few places. What you're seeing in this drawing, and a little better, I mean this was just a copy that I printed, is if this is the lampshade and this is the lampshade and the lamp is turned on, there's light that comes out from the lamp like this. So this is nice and bright up here, this is nice and bright, and then on either side it's going to be more in shadow of the lamp. So that's what you're looking at there when you see that. Some people like the look, some people don't, but you can see what it looks like in this sketch, right? Remember I did this a couple times for you where it's kind of funky and artsy. If you don't like that look, no worries. Let's not do it on this one. Right, so I'm going to end there and I'm going to stop the video, and then the next video is just going to be how I'm going to go in and just right on top of the line work on my underdrawing. I'm going to go in just for this exercise. I think I'll just go in with my one ultra fine Sharpie, and I'll just go in and start adding a little bit of hatching and texture and then just tracing over some of the lines. So this will be what will be to finish it, so that these videos don't get too long. I'm going to go ahead and stop here and then continue on as we draw on top of it.